The story begins in an underground parking lot where a group of metahumans is trying to kill Jay, who was ordered to kill a father and daughter. However, this man failed in his mission. Just then, a man named Payback arrives. He has a cross on his shirt. He wastes no time and easily kills the goons. Now, only 2 people are left. Payback opens fire on them, but they protect themselves by wearing bulletproof vests. Seeing this, Payback drops his weapon and charges straight into the fight with punches. The thug in front of him turns out to be a martial arts expert. He punches and kicks relentlessly. He even snatches Payback's knife and stabs him in the leg. But Payback refuses to give up. He retaliates, breaking the man's arm. Then, pinning him to the ground, he finishes him off. Now only one enemy remains, a hybrid of man and beast. Payback knocks him out with a single punch and then stabs him in the eye with his fingers. He does. The entire group is wiped out. Jack thanks him for saving his life, but Payback reveals the truth. He actually came for Jack because Jack is responsible for his daughter's death. Without hesitation, Payback draws his gun, aims, and shoots. When the police arrive, he surrenders without resistance. This all happened in St. Louis, the city that was the victim of a nuclear attack called Pulse. The incident destroyed homes and contaminated people with radiation. Those who survived underwent mutations and gained superpowers. Criminals began exploiting these powers. To control the situation, the U.S. government had to take drastic measures. The biggest step was the construction of a maximum security prison called St. Braun. This prison was specifically designed for criminals with superpowers. The warden of this prison is Devlin, a corrupt officer who takes pleasure in imprisoning people with superpowers, whether they are criminals or not. One morning, he receives news that a group of new inmates is arriving, including Payback and a young driver, Diego Diaz. Upon arriving at the prison, they encounter Officer Denny and the Lisserals, led by Captain Jason Brody. During the investigation, they are warned that while in prison, a special collar will be attached to their legs. This collar will deliver a substance called Nelly, which will block their superpowers. Furthermore, if any inmate creates a disturbance, the collar can be activated and they can be electrocuted. Payback is not afraid of this at all. However, the captain puts on a bit of a show. He activates a command on his tablet and electrocutes the inmate, rendering them unconscious. After explaining everything, the new inmates are taken to their cells. The next morning, they arrive on the prison grounds. Soon as they arrive, Payback becomes hostile to Jim, a member of the same group Payback killed to capture Jeffrey. When Jim learns that Payback killed his brother that night, he pounces on him, but Payback easily dodges and lands a powerful punch. A fierce fight quickly ensues. Diego watches and wonders why the police aren't stopping the fight. Just then, an inmate, Gordon, also known as Lightning Rod, tells him that the police only intervene when an inmate tries to kill another. Despite his powers being disabled, Payback attacks his opponent. The inmate retaliates, punching him in the nose. He then attacks again and threatens to kill him in public. Officer List stops the fight by electrocuting both of them. A female officer then kills the inmate, and they are sent to the hospital. After the fight, Diego asks Gordon how he survived in prison for so many years. Gordon tells him the 4 cardinal rules of Santabron. Always keep everything clean, mind your own business, don't get into trouble, and never borrow anything from an inmate. He offers another important piece of advice. Never reveal how many years remain on your sentence. Diego has only been sentenced to 5 years. If life-sentenced prisoners find out, he could be in serious trouble. Diego then asks about Santabron's most dangerous prisoner, Julius Loeb. Julius has the power to control minds, therefore he's kept in a separate cell and is constantly monitored by his special assistant Darius. Godon also says that if Nolly ever stops working, Julius could easily take over the entire prison. Meanwhile, in the prison office, the warden sends one of his men to call Julius, as it's time for his rehab hearing. Wearing a leash around his neck and a metal mask, Julius is taken to a dark room. There, a judge questions him. He wants to know if Julius has reformed after so many years in prison. But Julius ignores the hearing. He angrily tells the judge that he just wants to go back to his cell. As expected, his rehab report is considered poor, and he will have to remain in prison indefinitely. As soon as he leaves the courtroom, the warden approaches Julius. He is about to retire and wants to make a deal with him before handing over the prison to a new supervisor. The warden tells him that he runs a secret fight club inside the prison, earning extra money, but once he leaves Santabron, all he'll have left is his monthly pension. He wants to live the rest of his life in comfort, luxury, and wealth. He recently learned that Julius has a large sum of money hidden in a bank account, accessed only by Julius. The warden offers Julius to transfer all his money to the warden's account in exchange for a more comfortable life in prison. Julius agrees to the deal. Meanwhile, in the hospital ward, Dr. Isabel is treating Payback. Just then, Diego, who was sent on cleaning duty, arrives. Despite working with the most dangerous prisoners, the doctor is a kind woman who treats everyone with respect. Diego opens up to the doctor and reveals that his special power is his ability to deeply feel the emotions of others. He claims he's no threat and has been wrongly imprisoned. The doctor takes pity on Diego, and the two continue talking. Just then, the doctor is called into another room to perform a medical examination on Julius. Arriving there, she begins her examination, but unaware that Payback has already gotten off the stretcher and followed her. Seeing the doctor caring for one of the world's most dangerous villains, Payback becomes enraged. He attacks the doctor, beating her until she is unconscious. He then moves forward, intent on killing Julius. But just as he's about to attack him, Diego enters the room and stops Payback. He moves forward to take revenge and subdues him. Meanwhile, a police officer arrives just in time, apprehends Payback, and takes him back to his cell. Diego's heroic act makes him popular with the other inmates. At lunch, the prisoners honor him by giving him their jelly. A little while later, Gordon arrives, congratulating his friend and promising that no one will bother him anymore. Suddenly, Darius also gives Diego his jelly and calls him into the corridor, as Julius wants to talk to him. When Diego arrives at Julius's cell, Julius thanks him for his work at the hospital and promises to help him when the time is right. Diego is unsure whether it's right to seek help from the prison's most dangerous prisoner, but after a while he accepts the offer. In the prison office, the warden, with the help of his secretary, Felicia, is preparing for his farewell when Captain Brody arrives. The warden tells him that he plans to use Julius to transfer his property to his name before he leaves office. Brody, tired of the infighting and corruption within the prison, rejects the idea and quietly leaves the room. Meanwhile, Felicia is upset with her boss's attitude and says that if the authorities find out, he'll be in big trouble. But the warden doesn't care. He says he needs Felicia's help. He knows that Felicia wants his job, so he shows her 2 envelopes. The first envelope contains a letter of recommendation for her, allowing her to become the new supervisor. The second envelope contains several charges against her, which he will use if Felicia doesn't help him. Despite understanding her boss's intentions, Felicia agrees to the conditions, confident that once she becomes supervisor, she will change Sabar's situation. Another day passes, and Gordon is called for a hearing. There, she has to prove her point. It turns out he's reformed. After serving 10 years of his life sentence, he claims he's changed his ways and is ready to share what he's learned with others. Unfortunately, the judge doesn't believe him. He says that of all the prisoners, he's the only one who doesn't stand out in any way, neither good nor bad. Hearing this, Gordon becomes enraged and says he just wants to be free and has served enough of his sentence. But because of that anger, the judge rejects his request for release and sentences him to a few more years in prison. With no hope of freedom, Gordon sits down at the canteen table. Diego, now working in the kitchen, tries to cheer his friend up. Just then, Darius approaches the table and hands Gordon a key. Gordon immediately understands what it's for and assumes it's part of some secret plan by Julius. As Diego returns to the kitchen, Gordon opens his jacket and uses the key to turn off the collar on his leg, now free from Neely and able to use his powers. But first, he goes to Diego and thanks him for being a good friend over the past few days. Diego doesn't understand why. A little while later, Gordon starts teasing a policeman and provokes him into a fight. The officer steps in to teach him a lesson. Just then, Gordon pulls a power cord from a lamp and hits himself, absorbing all the electricity. This overloads the prison generator, causing the entire power system to shut down. By absorbing this energy, Gordon becomes a power source again and delivers a powerful shock to the policeman, killing him instantly. Gordon then escapes through the canteen. The generator malfunctions, causing the prison cameras to shut down. The officers are no longer able to activate the shocks in the prisoners' collars. Seeing this opportunity, the criminals decide to take advantage. In the prison courtyard, Jim and his goons decide to fight Payback again, but just as they're about to confront him, the generator restarts. The police quickly reconnect the control system, activate the inmates' collars, and electrocute them, sending them back to their cells. After the situation is brought under control, the officers learn that one of their comrades in the canteen has died in an attack by Gordon. They also realize he was behind the power outage. They report this to the warden. The warden angrily orders that Gordon be found immediately. Meanwhile, Lightning Rod flees to the infirmary. There, he looks out the window at the sunlight and declares that he'll soon be free again. Just then, Officer Morales enters the room, knocks him to the ground with a single punch, and informs the warden that she's caught him. The warden orders Gordon's execution as punishment for the death of a police officer. Liz refuses, refusing to kill any prisoners, but the warden forces her to. Finally, wearing her fighting gloves, she repeatedly strikes Gordon's head until he's completely dead. The next day, Diego was grieving the loss of his friend when he receives a call from his wife. She says she needs him because she can't raise their daughter alone. Diego says he's trying to spend as little time in prison as possible, but his wife doesn't know how long she can wait. Just then, Officer Liz arrives and cuts the call. She takes Diego to meet the warden. The warden takes him to the solitary confinement corridor, where there's a special room where prisoners are subjected to the harshest punishments. The warden warns him that if he's the next one to enter that room, he'll be executed. If he doesn't want to be a prisoner, he must explain why Julius is so interested in him. Diego simply says that he helped him in the hospital, and that's why Julius befriended him. Hearing this, the warden clearly warns Diego that from now on, he must tell him everything he knows about Julius. Otherwise, he'll be locked in solitary confinement for a long time. Diego has no choice but to agree. For the next few days, everyday life in the prison continues as usual, unnoticed, but Julius quietly continues to work on his secret plan. One morning, he sends one of his men to deliver a tattoo needle to Payback's cell. Payback doesn't know who sent it, but he doesn't care and begins tattooing a cross on his body. He then goes to the courtyard to find Jim. Jim says it's not the right time yet, but assures him that they'll settle the score soon. It seems Jim has been told to keep quiet for now, as something big is about to happen. Diego is barely getting through his days. After Godin's death, he decides to confront Julius directly. He goes to his cell and asks what his true intentions are and what he wants him to do. Julius simply says, "Be patient. If all goes well, they'll both be free by the end of the week." That day is the warden's retirement, and Felicia is eagerly awaiting his replacement. But she receives a shock when she learns through an email that Captain Brody is also in the running for the position. Angrily, she goes to speak to the warden. The warden says he's just giving the captain a chance. Felicia doesn't believe him and suspects there's some other reason. Captain Brody is also shocked by the news, but until the warden retires. He resolves to keep everything under control and tells Jim not to mess up on his last day. Jim agrees, but as the captain leaves, he tells his colleagues that he's been waiting for an opportunity to eliminate him. Nevertheless, they must accept Julius's plan and wait for the right time. Finally, the day of the warden's departure arrives. Arriving at the prison, Captain Brody and Felicia are summoned. He announces that he has chosen his new prison in charge. This comes as a huge shock to Felicia, as Brody is appointed the new in charge of Sanda Baron, knowing that he is the most qualified for the position. Felicia leaves the room in disappointment, making Brody even more uneasy about the promotion. However, the warden remains unfazed and goes to Julius's cell to fulfill their agreement. The prison officer gives him a tablet with access to his bank account so the prisoner can transfer all his money. Just then, Payback returns to the prison grounds to provoke Jim. But this time he relents, and the two prepare for another battle. Seeing the two prisoners fighting, Les and Captain Brody try to turn on the power to the collars, but it doesn't work. Meanwhile, Julius activates a command on the tablet. However, while transferring the money, he also activates a command to hack the prison's power system. This allows him to deactivate all the collars, shutting down the control system and restoring all the prisoners' powers. As this happens, the prisoners begin a riot in the prison, fighting among themselves and the police, who desperately try to prevent a full-blown riot. In the hospital wing, Diego also regains his empathic powers and begins to feel the emotions of all the inmates. This overload makes Diego feel bad, but Dr. Isabel helps him calm down, explaining that they'll need him to protect the patients in the hospital. Diego agrees, and together with the doctor and a security guard, they block the exit before any more inmates can enter. Returning to Julius's cell, Felicia calls the warden and informs him that the inmates' powers have been released because someone has hacked the security system. The prison officer then tries to leave the cell to control the situation, but the door is locked from the outside. In addition to disabling the collars, Julius has also unlocked the cell's electronic locks, freeing all the inmates. The situation rapidly worsens, and the inmates wreak havoc wherever they go. With their powers, which range from lasers to remote movement and fire, they destroy the security guards and their own cells. Amidst this chaos, Diamond Jim, whose powers have now activated, transforms into a terrifying figure with immense strength and rock-hard skin. Despite his strength, Payback struggles to confront his enemy and falls to the ground. Jim is about to finish him off when another inmate strikes him in the head. However, thanks to his strength, he feels no pain and kills him with a blow to the neck. Payback seizes the opportunity to escape. Nearby, Captain Brody and the other police are trying to subdue the inmates and devise a way to restart the collar. He then seeks help from Felicia, who suggests restarting the generator immediately, as this will restore control of the cameras in the collar, reactivating the system. Brody decides to go to the generator room alone, while his fellow inmates stay behind to stop him. However, Jim sees the captain leaving and decides to follow him to settle the score. When they reach the generator room, Brody asks Felicia for more information, but her communication device isn't working. Things get worse when Jim also arrives and searches for the captain, who tries to hide behind the generator but accidentally drops a wrench, revealing his location. Jim goes after him, but Brody manages to hide and tries to escape. Despite his efforts, the prisoner finds him, and with nowhere left to run, Brody decides to fight him, but his punches have no effect on Jim. Before killing him, Jim reveals that Julius planned this whole thing with the help of a prison officer. He suspected Brody was involved, but the captain is innocent. After some thought, Brody remembers that his partner, Denny, was in the generator room when he was locked up. He then realizes that Denny was working for Julius and had planted a device to tamper with the security system. Now that he knows the truth, Brody tries to confront Jim, but Jim is too strong and begins to overpower him. Nearing the end of his powers, the captain somehow manages to free himself and, using a wrench, breaks one of the pipes in the room. The resulting hot gas hits Jim's face, causing him to scream in pain until he finally passes out. Finally, Brody seizes the opportunity and restarts the generator, regaining control of the prisoners. Despite this, Julius's plan continues, and after revealing everything to his boss, he declares he has one last trick left. No one knew that Julius possessed a secret power that allowed him to. He can transfer his mind into another person's body. With this power, he switches minds with Warren's, and within seconds, Warren finds himself in Julius's body. Without a chance to recover, Julius punches him unconscious, leaving him unconscious on the bed. Now that he has the warden's body, he orders the policeman to open the door and take the prisoner to solitary confinement. A short while later, Julius emerges from his cell and meets Felicia, who says she has taken control of the situation and is returning the prisoners to their cells. The prison officer is pleased with his work and, as a reward, appoints him the new in charge of San Tiburon, replacing Brody. Eventually, the riot is brought under control. In the courtyard, Payback sits on the corpses of several inmates. He has finally eliminated all the powerful criminals in the prison and is shouting with joy at his victory. Diego, meanwhile, is also instrumental in the riot. Accompanied by Dr. Isabel, he protects the hospital wing. As a reward for his efforts, he is transferred to a regular prison where he will be released early due to good behavior. Diego then bids the doctor farewell. As he leaves, Officer Liss arrives and informs the doctor of the warden's new orders. She tells the doctor to administer medication to Julius to keep him under control when he is released from solitary confinement. The doctor finds this strange, but forced to comply, she obliges, thus eliminating the last clue to the real Julius's plan. A few days later, Felicia finally takes over as prison chief, while Brody resigns to leave the chaos of prison behind and spend more time with his family. Julius eventually manages to escape and keeps his promise to Diego, who is preparing to catch a bus to his new prison. But Julius still has one more promise to fulfill, and using the warden's body, he grants Darius parole. With this, the prisoner is released, and on his way out of prison, he meets Julius, who is waiting to take him away in his car. Unsuspecting, the two prisoners escape and, using their powers, begin their rise in the criminal world once again. So, let us know how you liked this film in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more movie recaps like this one. See you next time.